To my understanding, astrology is the perception of meaningful patterns and coincidences within a system of proven geometric rules. And of course, it is critical to realize that patterns and cycles tend to repeat. Now, toward the possibility that this may help put some of us at ease in regard to the outcome of this year's election, and believe me, I totally understand, it's as nuts as it's ever been out there. Here's a shorter version of a video I posted in May in which I explained that Saturn transiting through Aquarius and Pisces seems to correlate with progressive governance, and you can go back 5 Saturn cycles all the way to the post-Civil War period in the 19th century to notice that the pattern is repeating. Starting from the more recent years, the 1990s, the Clinton administration began with Saturn in Aquarius and continued into a second term with Saturn in Pisces, and Clinton came into power after 12 years of Republican rule. Now go back one Saturn cycle and you arrive at the John F. Kennedy administration. He began with Saturn in Capricorn, but Democrats remained in power through the Aquarius and Pisces period, and though the 60s were extremely turbulent, nevertheless, some of the most meaningful and important progressive legislation ever was passed by Lyndon Johnson. Backtrack another Saturn cycle and you find yourself at the entry point of Franklin Roosevelt, again after years of Republican fat cat rule. FDR presided over a period that was probably even more important than the 60s toward advancing the interests of the common citizen by legislating a national minimum wage, prohibiting employment discrimination, and of course, Social Security. The Saturn cycle before that shows us the period of Theodore Roosevelt, who, though Republican, was considered very progressive back in the days when progressive Republican wasn't an oxymoron. And finally, history tells us that in the time of Abraham Lincoln, another very progressive Republican, and he must have been, he was instrumental in at least the beginning of emancipation for African Americans, well, it turns out the poor man was rewarded by being assassinated, and his replacement was Andrew Johnson, who was probably the biggest racist in history. This turn of events reminds you a little bit of the shock the nation felt upon seeing Barack Obama, a solid upright citizen, followed by racist gangster Donald Trump. However, most importantly, notice that after Johnson, Ulysses S. Grant and Rutherford Hayes were once again progressive administrations attempting to return power to more of the people instead of the privileged few. Bottom line, we are about to enter another period of Saturn through Aquarius and Pisces, and I think this has to be very good news for progressives.